Hope everybody's having a great day. It's Sam with Zero Gravity REI and Runway Properties. I'm here in beautiful, rainy Georgia on an awesome quarantine day with my buddy Rob Altork, who actually Rob runs all of our rehabs and manages all of our rehabs in the Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina market. So pumped to have Rob with us. Unfortunately, couldn't have or don't have Rachel, who is Rob's better half over there in South Carolina with us, but we're missing her, thinking about her. But happy to have Rob here today because we want to talk through an opportunity that we have in Fountain Inn, South Carolina, which is about 15 miles, Rob, outside of Greenville, South Carolina.
That's right. Yeah, about 15, 20 miles. Yep.
Okay. And if you're unfamiliar with the Greenville Spartanburg area, it is an MSA of about 1 million people. So it's a nice size MSA. It's the largest in South Carolina, I believe, even larger than Charleston. So it's a great area. There's a ton of industry going on over there. Michelin headquarters, BMW has a huge plant up in that area. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's a growing market. And we on the runway side, entered into the market about 6 months ago, and we were very lucky to connect with Rob and Rachel at R&R. They have just done a fantastic job for us as far as managing our rehabs up there. So if you're in that area, anywhere in that general area, and you're looking for someone like that to manage your rehabs for you, if you're doing it remote, or you just want to spend your time doing other things, highly recommend that you guys look them up. And I'll put some contact information in the video as well, if you want to get a hold of them. But to get straight to the deal, so what we have is a very unique opportunity in Fountain Inn. Like I said, 15 miles outside of Greenville. There is an old mill that we have under contract that just has a ton of opportunity, or a ton of potential. Let me say, I think that everyone has seen or been experienced one of these old mills that folks have come in and done some work to, given it a facelift, and kind of brought it back to life and repurposed it, whether it's for retail, living space, or event space, anything like that. And this is a prime example, or a prime opportunity to do something very similar to that. There are three buildings. There's one main building that we'll call the mill building, and then there are two other buildings that we can talk a little bit as well, because there's some opportunity there also. So we'll get some specifics. I'll put some numbers and everything up on the board so you guys can see that. We'll go through some pictures and that sort of thing to get a good understanding of the property and the potential opportunity there. But I did want to kick it over to Rob, who's kind of boots on the ground, and so he and Rachel have kind of been the point people for this project there, and they've been working with the seller. They've talked to the folks there locally in Fountain Inn, who are kind of the decision makers, and just wanted to kind of kick it over to you, Rob, to kind of talk through, who have you guys talked to in the area, talk a little bit more about Fountain Inn, and kind of give folks some perspective on the opportunity there.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Appreciate the introduction. Yeah, so Fountain Inn's it's a unique town. The government got a hold of it before a lot of the commercial industry got involved in the Main Street area, and they kind of kept that on the outskirts. So it's a very unique kind of small town America feel. The mill itself is kind of an icon to Fountain Inn. It's probably the largest historic building still standing, and it's literally a block off of Main Street. And it's a quickly growing area. We were lucky enough to meet with the city administrator and talk with them about kind of what they have in mind for the area. And over the next 5 years, they have a pretty progressive plan. And a lot of it is going to be taking place very close to this mill. So they're putting a ton of money into the Parks and Rec. They've just built a new like 4 ball fields together, but a large athletic facility just a few blocks from here. And they're also extending the city streetscape, which will wind its way through the current mill village and make its way extremely close to the mill here. Um, they're also in the process of, right now, currently, the city of Fountain Inn, I believe, has 10,000 homes, and by the end of 2020, it'll be up to over 11,000. So they've got a lot of progression in the mix. The Mill Hill homes that are directly behind the mill are all being rehabbed right now, or not all of them, but a lot of them are being rehabbed. Some are being torn down and building new mill style homes, if you will. Anyway, that as we talk with the administrator and a lot of the folks around town, and also in the neighboring city, Simpsonville, which has a much larger population, we're seeing a lot of people that would be drawn to Fountain Inn if it had more of, if this mill was restored. One of our ideas, or our main idea right now, is to have more or less a brewery or a restaurant on the main level of the mill. It's got open rafters as it sits now, so it'd be pretty easy upfit. And like Sam said, the building's just got a ton of character. So bringing that kind of family-friendly environment to the downtown is kind of what the city's looking for, and kind of what the people are looking for as well.
Yep. Talk a little bit about, I know in some of these scenarios where someone's looking to come in and do some redevelopment, and a project like this, a lot of times the city will incentivize that sort of thing. And I know you touched on it a little bit, but um, you know, anything as far as like tax incentives or anything like that, that with the folks that you've talked to, that there's opportunity there potentially?
Yeah, absolutely. So the city itself is, they're very flexible on what they're, what they'll work with us on. So whatever zoning requirements we need, or whatever we need on that end, they're happy to help, because they want to see this mill come back to life, and they want to see the city also progress. Um, that, and they've offered, um, basically not necessarily a grant program, but they're offering, the possibility of tax relief for, the first couple of years into business, or something along the lines of that. And they're very open to custom tailoring some sort of package that would kind of help on the buyer side or the developer side, just to encourage the growth in Fountain Inn.
Okay. Yeah, that's always nice to have the folks there that are the decision makers in town to be on board and behind what you're doing. And it sounds like that's the situation here. That the folks there in Fountain Inn are really looking for someone to come in and polish this place up and provide something to the community, whether it's a brewery, like Rob said, or some sort of event space, or I mean, you name it. It's such a cool spot, and I'll throw the pictures up and the videos up so everybody can get a really good feel of it. But um, man, I would love to be in that area, because you could do so much with this thing. So really cool opportunity. And again, to have the folks there on board locally just makes it that much more appealing. So can you kind of talk about the buildings themselves, just kind of go through each of the three buildings, and, what folks would be working with there?
Sure. So the main mill, which is kind of the center point of the property, is it's 3 stories. It's roughly 7,500 square feet. Still has an elevator shaft from when it was built. It was built in 1914. And it's got exposed rafters throughout, original hardwood floors. It's got a lot of the original metal roof on the roof, and also on the siding, to give it that rustic look. But the building itself is in fairly good condition, and it's mostly watertight. Um, the second building is part of the mill, and it's kind of what we would consider, the kid version of the adult mill that would be the main mill. So it's a smaller version. It's caught on fire a few times. It needs some love for sure. But our main goal is probably going to be either to rehab that facility, and use it for a venue or something along the lines of that, or even the timbers in it and the material that's in it itself has value to it and would make a great way to we can salvage a lot of material from the smaller warehouse and use it to upfit the bigger warehouse and keep that authentic rustic feel to it. um, that was a one thing that was talked about as far, and as long as we were doing that, it would also create more area for parking on the property. um, Nice little thunderstorm happening here right
Yeah,
now.
it just came through
uh,
here about an hour ago. So
anyway, so that was one thing we talked about with that smaller building. There's
okay.
also a fully functioning 5,800 square foot warehouse, that's not really of the same rustic feel as the mill itself, but currently it's being used. The guy that's basically upfits Jeeps. Um, it's got great bones about it. The roof does need to be replaced, which is somewhere around $15,000 range, so nothing too expensive there. But that building in and of itself is pretty ready to go and functional as it stands.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we focus on tend to focus on the opportunities there with the main mill space, obviously, because it's the coolest, is what it
Right.
comes down to. But there's definitely potential in the other spaces as well. For somebody that wants to get creative for sure, or turn it into a parking lot. So there are a lot of options there.
Right.
Okay. So, and if I don't think I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but Rob, you guys are primed and ready to do any of this work and manage the rehab or the build to suit, whatever a buyer would be looking for. Correct?
That's correct. So we already have, architects standing by, also a commercial general contractor that can handle the entire project. We've actually already kind of walked it through with several folks and have everything queued up, kind of ready to go. So yeah, absolutely. This would be a good project where literally you could buy it sight unseen, with us being the boots on the ground, and we could rehab the entire thing, get it back to its glory.
Yep. And I will again vouch for Rob and Rachel and their management of the projects that they've done for us. I think we've done probably 4 flips in the last few months, and I think maybe we've seen 2 of the houses. One of them one time, the other one a couple times, and then you know it's very hands off from the owner's perspective, and they do it all for you. So they're fantastic, and we can vouch for them. So that's pretty cool too, that you would have somebody there that just run the show for you. You get the space, get a cool property, and then basically have it be a turnkey reno or turnkey. Yeah, I guess that's what you would call it. So talk a little bit about the overall condition. um, I know you talked about the other 2 buildings as far as, like, the roof and that sort of thing, but talk about the structure, or talk about the mill itself from like a structural standpoint. Because I mean, looking at the foundation and everything, it's in really good condition.
That's true. It is. There's definitely we've seen some signs of termites, but nothing too extensive, nothing active. Everything's already been treated in the past, and nothing um, you know, that's challenging the structural integrity of the building. As far as the bones about it, give me just a minute, baby. As soon as I'm done, I'll help you out. Okay. But as far as the bones of the building go, it's great. The framing, the foundation itself, exterior walls, everything about it is good. The roof, itself actually does need to be replaced, and the outside of it has that very rusted, you know, metal look to it.
Mhm.
So the property does need a lot of work. It needs new HVAC, it needs new plumbing, new electricity. Um, it needs one of the hardest problems that we're going to have is just bringing it up to code, as far as the efficiency goes with the insulation, because it is an old building. So that's probably one of our biggest challenges. But that's not to say we kind of have an empty shell here to work with. We can do pretty much whatever we want. There's no guessing as far as getting in and demoing out sections of the building to find out what we can do in certain areas. It's you literally can see everything as it stands now.
Right.
So,
And as far as the rehab would go on something like this, just like you're talking about it. I mean, structurally, um, good shape. Obviously, the mechanicals need some work, but you're not really going to want to. You're not going to go in and demo a ton because you don't want to lose the character. And to utilize the space, there's not a ton that you're going to do. I mean, maybe some office space in there, or some stuff like that. But as far as going in and spending a ton of money moving walls around and that sort of thing, I would assume that folks would just want to kind of leave it as an open space to maximize the character there. So um, yeah, I guess long story short, there's just so much potential with not a ton of work for that size of a commercial property is my takeaway.
true,
So
true, and the great part about the main mill itself is that it's been preserved well enough from the elements to where you don't have a lot of rot and a lot of bad things going on that you see in a lot of distressed properties.
yeah,
So it's been very very well preserved from the elements.
okay. And you talked about this at the beginning, but I just want to circle back. Where is the lot positioned in Fountain Inn? Like, what are I know it sits on the corner right there. There are a few, restaurants and some city buildings there adjacent to it. Can you
Yeah,
talk to
so
talk to that a little bit?
sure. Yeah, so it's literally Main Street. It's a block off of Main Street. It sits on I believe it's on Ellison Street, and that's just a block off of Main Street. The only thing that separates it is railroad tracks and literally the farmers market and the Chamber of Commerce. So it's right in the mix of everything. That you stand on the front porch and look out the mill, and you're looking slap at the farmers market, Chamber of
Mhm.
Commerce, the Fountain Inn Museum, and the heart of downtown Fountain Inn. The one thing that I really like about this building is the city Fountain Inn is known from back in the day. Travelers would stop, and there was an inn that had a fountain in front of it, and unfortunately that it was not preserved just over time. It just the weather got to it, and it's just beyond preservation. So this is one of the most unique places around. I mean, probably within 20 miles, it's going to be the most unique historic building that you're going to find that's in this condition.
Mhm.
So that's one of the coolest parts about it to me. They've done a lot of these rehabs in cities across America of old mills. Most of them large. This one is a little bit smaller. It's only 7,500 square feet. So it is very unique. I will say that.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks, Rob, for that rundown. I think folks are definitely going to be interested.